All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you may be listening. Welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. The 147th day of the year. Hope you had a wonderful, long holiday weekend and observed the true spirit and meaning of Memorial Day. Welcome back to business on a Tuesday that feels like a Monday. There was a Newsmax Daily yesterday. If you missed it, be sure to go back, check it out. Although most people associate this week with the start of summer, there are still 24 more days until summer officially arrives on the calendar. And on the calendar of made-up holidays, nothing significant happening today. Today's Daily is packed with great Newsmax content, but let's start it off with some of President Trump's comments at Arlington National Cemetery yesterday for the laying of the wreath ceremony.
We gather today to honor the incredible service members who rest in glory in this cemetery and burial grounds around the world and in 1,000 lonely places known only to God. In every hour of peril and every moment of crisis, American warriors have left behind the blessings of home and family to answer their nation's call. They've offered all that they had within them and given their last breaths to each and every one of us that we might live safe and breathe free. This morning we pay tribute to their immortal deeds. We share in the sorrow of their beloved families, and as one nation, we give thanks for the ultimate gift they have so selflessly given to all of us. These warriors, and that's what they are, as great, great warriors, picked up their mantle of duty and service, knowing that to live for others meant always that they might die for others. They knew that. They asked nothing for it. They gave everything, and we owe them everything and much, much more. Everybody and the entire world, those young men could never have known what their sacrifice would mean to us, but we certainly know what we owe to them. Their valor gave us the freest, greatest, and most noble republic ever to exist on the face of the earth, a republic that I am fixing after a long and hard 4 years. That was a hard 4 years we went through. Who would let that happen? People pouring through our borders unchecked. People doing things that are indescribable and not for today to discuss. But the republic that is now doing so very well, we're doing so very well right now, considering the circumstances, and will do record-setting better with time. We will do better than we've ever done as a nation, better than ever before. I promise you that.
President Trump, Vice President Vance, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth all participated in the laying of the wreath ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. If you are on any social media platforms at all, I'm sure you've seen people are praising Pete Hegseth's powerful speech yesterday. Former Navy SEAL and Newsmax host Carl Higbie is one of those people that loved it, and Carl had some powerful, emotional words of his own. Check this out.
You know, a lot of people ask me why I'm working today as a veteran. It's because it's not my day. I make a point of that. I get Veterans Day, but today is Memorial Day. It's their day. America's best. Some of those headstones, they lied about their age to storm the beaches of Normandy, marching to almost certain death. People who 5 minutes ago may have been a farmer were now crossing the Delaware on Christmas Eve to kill people that didn't want you and I to have our freedoms today. The one who might have been drafted out of his family business with a newborn baby at home, sent halfway around the world to a rice field just to be killed, whose body may never have even been recovered. Or my brothers killed right next to me in Iraq in 2007. This is their day. I took that picture after our ceremony in Baghdad, after we loaded their bodies onto a plane to go home to their families, their kids and loved ones. This was the first operation, actually, where I had people killed next to me. And I remember our convoy tearing into the Army compound as the medevac birds were landing because one guy still had faint vitals, another with a critical leg wound. We lifted them out first, and things kind of got slowed down, and a lot of us had some blood on us. Some of it's ours, some of it's theirs. I looked over at probably the toughest man I've ever met. He was kneeling down next to Jay Louis' body, one of his longtime close friends, and he was crying. Never thought I'd see that guy shed a tear in my life. That's the cost of freedom. That's what it is under each one of those white stones that I just showed you. Every one of those right there had a unit that watched them die, had a family member. Every one of them had a job before. Many had kids. They knew this could be the result of them signing up, but they did it anyway. And that's what makes America unique. Something that our SecDef pointed out today at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Something that I think everyone in every corner of every political party, every government office, and every person who breathes fresh air today should really internalize.
You know, throughout time, civilizations have honored the powerful, the well-connected, and the well-born. Emperors and kings have built magnificent shrines to their own royal greatness. Yet in America, with our great experiment in self-government, it is fitting that the most honored and closely guarded tomb in the land is that of an anonymous soldier of an unknown rank. It's a uniquely American tradition that we honor anonymous sacrifice above worldly greatness.
That's what today's about. A lot of people have forgotten that, though. We as a country have become so divided. And I'm not talking about division in politics. I'm talking about people who believe in something bigger than themselves and people who don't. We as a country, we have had it so damn good for so long because of those people under those simple white markers. I don't think we as a society, not as individuals, but us as a whole society really appreciate sacrifice as much as we once did. We certainly don't collectively act like it. It makes me wonder if we could even win World War II again. I mean, sure, we have the technology, but do we have enough people with the character to win? Do we understand what the cost is for us to walk down the street and not worry about a rocket flying over our head, a missile aimed at our home, an invasion on our shores? Sure, many of us say, hey, thank you for your service or whatever. Most genuinely, they do appreciate it and they do mean it. But many people have never experienced anything like that.
Carl goes on to tell a very personal story about his time in combat and about consoling the widow, the wife who became a widow, and children of a fallen brother.
I expect you to look at that flag a little bit differently today. I really do. Because while we all went on with our lives, that woman, her life, who was sitting there crying in my car, it didn't. It stood still, and it still does today. Her kids lost half their life on June 28th. They lost their dad. Her husband, parents lost a son. That's the reason for today. We sometimes, even me sometimes, we forget. We move on. But those families don't. They gave all their tomorrows so we can have our today. That's the reason for your 3-day weekend. So I sure as hell hope this sobers you up a little bit at that barbecue, by that pool, or whatever, because you should appreciate it. Maybe that beer tastes a little bit different. Maybe your kids, you give them an extra hug before bed. Maybe you stare an extra second at that waving flag in the breeze. Maybe it means a little bit more today. I know it does for me. And those who died giving us that, they'd want you to enjoy it. You know, I say this every year. Don't feel bad. Don't say thank you or happy Memorial Day or whatever else. I know you mean it, but don't. You want to honor the people that gave you everything? You really mean it? If you truly appreciate the sacrifice of so many, be someone worth dying for. Rest in peace, brothers.
And hopefully Carl's words rang true for you yesterday. Great stuff from the heart from Carl Higbie, the host of Frontline, 5 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. Newsmax's John Glasgow was at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument Memorial in New York City.
The service today honors the veterans of all the wars and continues to pay special homage to New Yorkers who fell in the Civil War. So these wreaths are going to be laid at the portal of the monument by the veterans, the cadets, as well as some active duty members. Earlier, we caught up with Peter Galasino. He's the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Association president here. He says it's important that we remember all those who have served on this special day. Watch.
I'm honored to be alive to be able to remember those. I've known people who have perished. I want to recognize and remember their contributions, and their lives meant something.
So there's going to be a number of guest speakers today. The USMC Band will also lead the way with some music. We're going to hear from the New York Caledonian Club Pipe Band, and Rear Admiral Alexis Walker, who's from New York, is going to be giving some remarks here. He's the special guest speaker. While it's important to remember all those lives that have been lost, it's also an important reminder to have a strong military, and it's essential to our freedom. Watch this.
You have to have a strong military. You have to use them wisely, but if you didn't have a military to stand up to bullies, then you could get overrun. And it's imperative to have a more than capable force that could respond.
That's Peter Galasino, president of the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Association. The next time you're in New York City, or whenever, you go to New York City, maybe you've never been there, go check out the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Yes, there is a lot to see and do in New York City, but try and squeeze in the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. It's about 150 years old, little older than that, nearly 100 feet high, one of the many great things to see in New York. Over the weekend, House Speaker Mike Johnson and several Republican senators made the rounds on all the big talk shows talking up the one big beautiful bill, which is now in the hands of the Senate. They have been working on it already, but this week they begin work in earnest on the one big beautiful bill. John Glasgow, back in the studio, spoke about it with a panel of guests, including former Oklahoma House Speaker T.W. Shannon.
TW, I want to start with you. What's your takeaway from this big, beautiful bill? There was a lot of controversy about whether or not they were going to get this thing done in the House. Now it's going to the Senate. Do you think there's going to be some maybe Republican grand senators that are going to try to hold this up?
Well, I would say the first lesson is never underestimate a Speaker of the House. That's the first lesson for everybody here. But the second is, listen, don't underestimate Donald Trump. Once again, he has delivered not just for his party, but he delivered for the American people. As you mentioned, this is the largest tax cut in American history. The Democrats stood against it. This is an unprecedented removal of tax on tips, tax on overtime, as you mentioned in your opening. The Democrats were totally against it. And so, yeah, you're going to see some finagling for sure from the Senate. Senators always want to have their input, add some color, take some things away from the bill. But ultimately, you're going to see this bill get passed because it's what the American people want. It's what they voted for. And again, this is a president who's delivering on exactly what he said he was going to do when he got elected.
Absolutely. House Speaker Johnson, he thinks this is going to get through. We've also got Senator Ron Johnson. He is also behind this as well. He's doing the media circuits here this morning. This is what he had to say about this bill and what's next. Watch.
This is our moment. We've witnessed an unprecedented level of increased spending, 58% since 2019, other than World War II. This is our only chance to reset that to a reasonable pre-pandemic level of spending.
So, Adrian, do you think that is the case? I mean, we talk about spending. Obviously, we want to get that debt down. That's the biggest thing. But the Republicans have framed this in a way where they're trying to reset what's happened and try to bring down this. And this bill is going to be one step towards that. What's your takeaway?
Absolutely. Again, this is delivering what the Americans wanted. I know there's a little bit of criticism from some of the GOP, but I would say at the end of the day, Speaker Johnson said it best. He says, we put this together. We would like to keep the equilibrium at balance here. And so though there may be changes, he really suggests that everybody pushes this forward into July where they are going to present it to President Trump.
One of the things, too, that's always been brought up, Nicole, is Medicaid. Democrats have said, they're going to cut Medicaid altogether. We're really not. The Republicans are looking at trying to get rid of some of the people off of Medicaid that probably shouldn't have it.
It's called waste, fraud, and abuse.
Waste, fraud, and abuse. House Speaker Mike Johnson talked about that this morning. Watch.
We are not cutting Medicaid in this package. There's a lot of misinformation out there about this, Jake. The numbers of Americans who are affected are those that are entwined in our work to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse.
So, Nicole, I mean, is this the Democrats' strategy, is to continually push this lie that Medicaid, they're going to get rid of it altogether?
It is. It's the mainstream media strategy of fear-mongering. And the Democrats, the reality is, the facts are that 1.5 million illegal aliens are getting kicked off of Medicaid because that's an abuse of taxpayer dollars. And Medicaid will no longer be funding hormone therapy and transgender surgeries for people who need gender-affirming care. That's another great example of waste, fraud, and abuse of American taxpayer dollars. Now, I know there were some negotiations because the original version of the bill banned minors from being funded by Medicaid, minors who identify as transgender. But this bill that was just passed in the House was so much better than that because there is no age restriction to not getting hormone and surgery covered by Medicaid, which is a major win for hardworking American taxpayer dollars. We don't want to see this abuse continue to be propagated on hardworking American taxpayer dollars.
And I get it. Democrats are going to have to vote with their party, but some of them could say, hey, you know, there's some wins here from the Republicans. If they wanted to unite the country, maybe that's an opportunity where they could say, hey, the Republicans are doing some good work here.
Can you imagine being a part of a party, being a Democrat now, where a president presents everything you've been talking about for the last 25 years for working people, and you vote against it because of the personality of who's in the office of the White House? I think it's despicable, and I think the Democrats are going to continue to pay a price at the ballot box in 2026 because they just can't get out of their own way because of their partisan lens.
That's former Oklahoma House Speaker T.W. Shannon on Newsmax. For more on the troubles within the Democratic Party, this is Bob Brooks.
They don't know what men and women are, hence why Democrats are now reportedly doing this. Democrats spending millions to learn how to speak to American men and win back the working class. So you see, after years of telling men that they're toxic, too manly, too masculine, trying to turn them into these weak little weirdo guys, majority of men, guess what? They don't want to vote for Democrats anymore. Shocker, right? The plan, codenamed SAM, or Speaking with American Men, a strategic plan, promises to use the funds to study the syntax, the language and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces. I mean, you got to be kidding me with this, everybody. Think about it. Democrats don't know how to communicate with guys anymore. They can't reach out to guys working within the Democrat Party, even ask them, have they ever played a sport? Maybe spent time in a locker room. Better yet, did they never have a group of friends hanging out with the guys, the Democrats? What is going on? I think this is actually pretty funny. Their party has become so anti-men and woke and weak and really dominated by liberal women, they're having to spend millions of dollars to figure out how to speak to men. There is only 2 species of humans on Earth. Half of them are guys. And you don't know how to communicate with them. We got to put this into perspective. There are men within the Democrat Party, but those men are so weird and woke and modernized, they don't know what to do. So now they have to spend $20 million on how to figure it out. It's really not that hard either. Just be normal, right? Be a guy, be a dude. Common sense stuff, but they cannot. And really, we should have saw this coming. Look at who the man they propped up as their choice for vice president. Tim Walz, everybody. Running out on stage, waving around his arms like that in the crowd, a very feminine way. It's kind of weird, right? And then he went on to play dress up like a hunter on the campaign trail. That is not authentic. People saw through that. And he's also Tampon Tim. We cannot forget it. He wants tampons to be put in men's bathrooms in schools. Look, I hate to tell you this. For most guys, that stuff is not cool. It is weird. We don't like it. And then right after the election, the DNC made this guy their vice chair. That is David Hogg. He's a 25-year-old gun activist, living stick figure. Look, men, the guys that they want to get back on the elections, they're not going to respond to people like David Hogg. They're just not. The men on the left actually don't know what men are anymore. They can't define it. So how would they know what men want? Which brings me to my next point. This Newsweek, they actually published this article last year. It was titled this, How Hot Girls Became the Right's New Obsession. Now, since when did hot-looking girls become exclusively an obsession for the right, huh? I'm really lost on this one. Doesn't every guy want to go out and find the most attractive girl that he can? I mean, that is just human nature. If the left doesn't, then that would mean that they are defying human nature and going after ugly girls to date and marry in order to prove that they are dedicated to the woke cause. You see, the fact that that article was even published, it is crazy. What are men supposed to do? Go after girls who look like this? Ugly girls with pink, blue, purple hair? Is this who we should date? I bet they would like that, but I'll tell you what, I'm good on that. No thanks. Here's another crazy article in The Nation. How red meat became the red pill for the alt-right. Now, since when did eating steaks, burgers, ribs, or whatever it is become an alt-right movement? Come on, man. I mean, red meat, it's delicious. I don't care who you are. What are men supposed to eat then? Salads, vegetables all the time, tofu, fish. Look, hot girls and red meat, they are really American things. Guys like them both a lot. And it is clear now why the DNC is spending $20 million to figure out how to talk to men. They consulted their own men and were told that hot girls and red meat is toxic masculinity. And then someone in the room was like, oh, yeah, the guys we have aren't really men. We better figure out something, and we better do it quick.
Bob Brooks, co-host of American Agenda. And speaking of Democrats, there's a lot of talk about a new poll that shows New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, beating longtime Senator Chuck Schumer in a hypothetical 2028 Democratic primary by a 21-point margin. What really puts the exclamation point on the Hone-In Strategy Group survey conducted for the Jewish Voters Action Network shows AOC leading 54% to 33% overall, but leading 45 to 33% among Jewish voters in New York, with 17% undecided. Chuck Schumer, as you likely know, is Jewish, and he's been the top Democrat, one of the top Democrats, for decades. Poll consisted of 1,136 New York registered Democrats. It still boggles my mind that people take AOC seriously. There was an article in Newsweek that even said AOC is sort of a Donald Trump type candidate for the Democrats because she would be such a big change from the norm. She is also about half the age of any other prominent Democrat. All right, let's wrap it up with Rob Schmitt and journalist Matt Taibbi on the Biden cover-up.
The WMD scandal is currently considered to be the largest journalistic scandal of our time. But in that case, we could legitimately say that the government lied to us. In this case, everybody was looking right at Joe Biden for years on end. It's not like we can say they lied to us, which is the case that they're now claiming. The first chapter of this book has an F-bomb in it, claiming essentially that they F'd us by lying about Joe Biden's health. But I was on the trail with Biden. We all saw it. He was clearly unfit. They just didn't want to report it.
It's unbelievable, and I feel like these guys are just bleeding out credibility as they try to save themselves in this moment because, again, you're looking at something. They're telling you it's not happening, but you can see it with your own eyes. And basically what they're telling you is we trusted the White House so implicitly that even though Joe Biden was clearly collapsing, we decided to believe the White House instead.
Yeah, and you have to remember that whenever there's a campaign like this and there's a pile on by everybody in the mainstream press, there's usually a propagandistic motive behind it. And I think in this case, what it is they're admitting one thing, but it's leading people away from the more obvious questions, which is there's a very serious scandal in play if Joe Biden was not competent from the beginning of his presidency. Who was signing all those documents? Who was making all those decisions? Was the auto pen used illegally? Were all those policies enacted illegally? Was legislation signed illegally? Like, these are all questions that we have to ask that they're not asking now because we're now admitting that we made a mistake about his fitness.
Matt Taibbi on Rob Schmitt Tonight. That's it right there. These are all the questions we need to be asking that they, meaning the media, aren't asking because now they're admitting that they, the media, made a mistake. Republicans and the Oversight Committee, James Comer, the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, and every other Republican, and Democrats, frankly, need to keep asking who signed the pardons, who was running the country, whose cocaine was in the White House. Did you hear? The FBI is officially asking whose cocaine was that in the White House. You remember that? I still can't believe that. A bag of cocaine in the White House. Oh, there were no cameras in that area of the White House. We don't know who put it there. End of story. Finally, Bongino and Kash Patel announcing they are escalating the investigation into the coke found at the White House, into the Supreme Court leak of the Dobbs draft, along with the ongoing investigation into the Butler assassination attempt on President Trump, and a whole bunch of other stuff. In the UK today, authorities are investigating the driver of a vehicle that plowed into a victory parade for the Liverpool soccer team last night.
People are shouting, trying to get the car to stop and trying to smash the windows. There was just chaos everywhere.
Dozens of people, were injured. So far, there's no word of any fatalities, fortunately. The driver is in custody. On Wall Street, stock markets opened sharply higher this morning following the European markets, which were higher after President Trump said over the weekend that he would delay increased tariffs on the EU until July. Talked about that on yesterday's Newsmax Daily. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are also higher this morning. Bitcoin is back up over $110,000. Ethereum up more than $100 at $26.60. And XRP is up 4 cents at $2.35. There's headlines all over the place saying the Dow rises more than 300 points after Trump delays the EU tariffs until July. That was actually the headline on Sunday, but the effects of it are happening today with the market reopening after the holiday. Be sure to keep up with all of the news all day on Newsmax N2 and at Newsmax.com. Also, make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus for all your favorite shows, hosts, and expert analysis. Starting with Wake Up America each and every morning, National Report, Newsline with Bianca De La Garza, American Agenda, John Bachman, Carl Higbie, Greta Van Susteren, Howie Carr, Rob Schmitt, Finnerty, Greg Kelly reports at 9, and much, much more. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you for listening. As always, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.